To pay respect and give you thanks for what we have. As Brother Jimmy mentioned earlier, we can't count our blessings if we really think about it. Some of us feel like we're not blessed, but we start looking, we really can't count them. And Lord, we appreciate what you do for us. And straighten us out when we go to whining and griping. We ask your compassion upon our pastor, Brother Judd, healing, and of course be with Melissa also, who's taking this time. And guide this church as we go through each and everything we do. In Christ's holy name. Amen. Folks, we'll be in chapter 5 of Daniel this morning. And of course, this is one of the famous chapters with handwriting on the wall. Back in the 70s, Billy Graham said at one of his crusades, when you study Daniel, you need to study Revelation, have Daniel over here, Revelation over here, and the current news in front of you. Well, what Billy Graham said back in the 70s applies today. We can take the very same thing. These both books are prophecy. There's other prophetic books in the Bible, but Revelation and Daniel are both where they're timely. And looking as we go more and more, we can look at them and see them come right out to us, even today almost. Been looking, we'll be getting into the 70s in Daniel later on, and that things are growing. I'm finding things that's coming to life right in there that is within my lifetime that I see have been fulfilled. So the book is accurate. It's truthful. It's still alive today. As we think about Daniel 5 right now, Belshazzar, and the handwriting on the wall, we think about leaders of countries. We find countries grow, or leaders grow, and they become more arrogant. They become more self-centered. They become more into themselves. And that's what we see here. We see where the leader here has just come right into himself. No care at all about his people, his country, or anything. He's very self-centered. We find that throughout the Bible, but not only there, we find it throughout history. If we look at our modern day history, we'll see leaders of countries. This right here actually represents a time when Medo-Persia took over Babylon. That's the beginning of the Persian Empire. And they've had prime ministers all the way through until the Shah of Iran. 2,500 years there that they stayed. Not as a whole country, conquered back and forth, divided, but still. Persia, modern day Iraq and Iran, is mentioned more in the Bible than any other country, with the exception of Israel. They were taking over a lot back in that time. They were. It was back and forth. They were divided after World War I and actually set up as two separate countries at that time. It was after World War I that Israel was given a territory, but they were not a country. By the way, we'll be coming up in that as we get later in Daniel. Chapter 5, Belshazzar, king, made great feast for 1,000 of his lords and drank wine in the presence of the thousands. Here he is. I'm speaking to the arrogant. Okay, who is Belshazzar? He is the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. Mike took Nebuchadnezzar out of the picture last Sunday. Actually, he really didn't take him out, but that was the end of the mention. Yeah, he went out to pasture. He put him out to pasture. Boy, that's a good word right there. That is a good one. That is a great one. Kind of give a little, who is this guy and everything. Got a handful of notes here. At the time, he's having a great feast. He's partying. He's invited all his lords, his wives, his concubines, and all the people around. And it says there's probably 1,000 in this room. Now, archaeologists have dug up a room outside of Babylon that, in the archives there, that's 165 foot by 55. So that may have been his ballroom. May have been. They won't say for sure, but, possibility. In the years between Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar, they're just a bunch of intrigue, mystery, political decline, downfall, murders, and whatever. Nebuchadnezzar was succeeded by his son, Evil Merodach. Now, I've heard several different pronunciations of this name. I've tried to play it on the computer, get one way and another. So I guess mine's as good as anybody else's since I hear it. And I'm sure it's wrong from what they would say at that time. Who had reigned, he only reigned for 2 years. And he was murdered by his brother-in-law. Keep it in the family. Near Galatia. After a brief reign, he died, leaving the kingdom in the hands of his son, Lebashah Marduk. That is a name that's derived from one of the gods that they had, Marduk. Later, he only lasted 2 months before being killed by an assassin and seated by Nabonidus. That would be Nebuchadnezzar's son-in-law. And he reigned for 16 years. Although, when he left the kingdom in the hands of his son, Belshazzar, he wasn't dead, but all right, son, you handle this part over here, I handle this over here. I'm going with my other wife up here to northern Arabia, we're going to worship the moon. So you had co-host of Babylon at that time, daddy and son. Daddy kind of staying up here, son's running things, or, partying, or however you want to put it. Well, anyway, during his reign, the 16 years there, he did bring Babylon back to some of its glory, but still not like it was under Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was an absolute monarch and ruled as he wished, the way he wished, how he did. But that gives you a little genealogy there. If you want to get to the date, and I run this date pretty good. It seems we come up with the exact date this feast is taking place, according to our calendar. November the 2nd, 539 BC. Because that's when the Medes and Persians indicated they took over Babylon. That's the day of the feast, by the way. Anyway, while he tasted the wine, verse 2, Belshazzar gave a command to bring the gold and silver vessels which his father, Nebuchadnezzar, had taken from the temple which had been in Jerusalem, that the king and his host, his lords, his wives, his concubines, might drink from them. All right, this is kind of in-your-face God. Now it says, his father Nebuchadnezzar. In the old language there, they did not have a term for grandfather. So he always spoke down the line there, father, although it was grandfather. I found that out. So that's where people want to argue, well, this Bible isn't written right because it says Nebuchadnezzar was his daddy. No, he's a grandson by his mother. The son-in-law, right, all right, he had a couple of wives, 2 or more. So they loved wives back then. We don't know how much they really loved them, they just loved having them. Then they brought the gold vessels that had been taken from the temple and the house of God, which had been in Jerusalem, and the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. They drank and praised the gods of gold, silver, bronze, iron, and stone. Remember back when Nebuchadnezzar told the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, there's not a God that can save you. Kind of in your face. Really in your face. Belshazzar and all his royal bunch, kind of in God's face right now. We're going to use your vessels now to toast these gods that can't do nothing, that cannot even speak or think. But we're going to toast them and give praise to them. How you like that, old boy? You think that... let's see. Psalms 37. I want verse 12 and 13 right. Wicked plot against the just and gashes him in his teeth. The Lord laughs at him, for he sees that his day is coming. Psalms there. Judge is doing studying Psalms. You'll find almost the same thing in Psalms 2, a few verses down right there. God laughs at people like this who are so into themselves that they think they are now God and ruling this completely. As you can see, he is got in the face of God. God's getting ready. In the same hour, the fingers of a man appeared and wrote opposite the lampstand on the plaster of the wall in the palace, and the king saw part of the hand that wrote. That hand. Look, there's a lampstand standing there giving some light. There's a finger. That is the finger of God, God Almighty. The same finger that's the Ten Commandments. Then the king's countenance changed. A light bulb went on his head or one went out. I don't know which. But anyway, something went through right there. And he changed. And his thoughts troubled him. And his joints and his hips are loosened. And the knees knocked together. Yeah. He's shaking. I don't know where he'd had enough drink to be inebriated enough to be shaken or not. But this finger's got him shaking. Yeah, I think this might, whoa. Sober him up. But give right here, his countenance, knocked against each other. Verse 7, the king cried aloud to bring the astrologers. He's getting paid. Oh, what's it? I got to know. I don't know. Bring those astrologers. The Chaldeans, the soothsayers, they spoke, and bring the wise men of Babylon, who will read this writing and tell me the interpretation. Shall be the one who done shall be clothed in purple and have a chain of gold around his neck, and shall be the third ruler of the kingdom. He is desperate to find out what this means of this hand that has put something on the wall over there. He couldn't see nothing but a hand. There wasn't no arm or anything to go with, no body there. But. It just indicates a finger right there, about where it's like this, or the back side, where you see this much, or where you just see this much. I don't know. It don't clarify that. But there was something left right there.
That's probably what he's concerned about. He probably wasn't really concerning himself with a hand or a finger. He was probably wondering, what does this mean?
Yeah, he wanted to know what this means. You see a sincere, earnest, desperate, anxious, you can add all kinds of adjectives here, need to know what this means. Yeah, he done something really bad. I'd say, yeah, that come through his mind pretty good there. Anywho, here it is. He's crying out, and to get this done, he's willing to give away a third of the kingdom. Make the man number 3. See, okay, here's Daddy. There's him. Whoever comes up next will be the third co-regent or ruler. In other words, you'll have a third of the territory fall under you. So Get in here, wise men, astrologers, and all you soothsayers. Now the king's wise men came, but they could not read the writing, nor make known to the king its interpretation. That's because they don't have no power. They only have their power. They do not have the power of God in them to interpret this. Now, what language are we in? I'm not sure. Probably is some type of Aramaic at the time. Then King Belshazzar was greatly troubled. His countenance changed. It had already changed. It's still changing. And his lords were astonished. Then the queen became the words of the king and lords and came to the banquet hall. The queen spoke, saying, O king, live forever. Do not let your thoughts trouble you, nor let your countenance change. Now, this is Queen Mother. It's not his wife, or not even one of them. Now, whether this was one of the wives of his daddy, or this is the daughter, the wife of Nebuchadnezzar, still living, because Nebuchadnezzar's been dead about 20 years. Range a little bit there, a couple of decades. She could still be alive. So we're kind of refer to her as the Queen Mother. For sure who it is, we're not sure. I could not find anything that would clarify that. Everybody left that open that I looked at. But anyway, she's been around a while. You can tell this in the next verse. There is a man in your kingdom whom the Spirit of the Holy God and the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of God, were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar, your father, the king, made him chief of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. Son, you got somebody in the house here, you got somebody in the kingdom that knows this kind of stuff. Your great-granddaddy, your father back here, made him and put him over all these wise men of Babylon. He's the one that can give you the answers, what she's telling him. Inasmuch an excellent spirit, knowledge, understanding, interpretation of dreams, solving riddles, explaining the enigmas, and found in Daniel, whom the king named Belshazzar, and let Daniel call, and he will let him be called, and he will give interpretation. Go get Daniel, in other words, son. Calm down. Calm down. He'll live forever here. Calm down. Huh? Well, you've been through 3 regimes here. Well, it's still family. Sometime that time, with son-in-laws, and all taking over there, Daniel was probably what you'd say demoted, or kind of pushed to the side here. They like their good old buddies down here at the drinking watering hole or what have you. And
the wrong families then to do.
Yeah, the wrong family. You got the son-in-law running things now. So a lot of these people were out. Daniel was brought in before the king, and the king spoke and said to Daniel, Are you that Daniel, who is one of the captives from Judah, whom my father, the king, brought from Judea? He kind of knows about it, but he don't know about it. I've heard of you. The Spirit of God is in you, and that you light and understanding and excellent wisdom found in you. In other words, you're a smart dude. You have. Now the wise men, astrologers, have brought in before me that they should read this writing and made known to me its interpretation, but they could not give me the interpretation of anything. I have heard of you, and you can give interpretation, explain enigmas. Now you can read the writing and make known its interpretation. You shall be clothed in purple and have a chain of gold around your neck, and shall be third ruler in the kingdom. He's given him the same promise. He's already thrown out for all of them. I'll give you a third of the kingdom right here. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, Let your gifts be for yourself, and give you rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing to the king and make known to him the interpretation. Don't give me nothing. I want nothing. But yes, I'll tell you what this means. I'll tell you the writings. It's right there in the language that Daniel understands. He's going to do it. And, O King, Most High God, gave Nebuchadnezzar, your father, kingdom and majesty and glory. Over here to John 19. Anyway, this is where Jesus is before Pilate. Pilate's talked to him. Yeah, 19:11. You'd have no power at all against me unless it had been given to you from above. Therefore, the one who delivered me to you has the greater sin. The Pharisees, right. But
They do.
Jesus is telling Pilate, you wouldn't have no power if my Father had not given it to you. We find this theme throughout the Bible. God chooses who He will have in power and who He will not. Because of the majesty He gave Him, all peoples, all nations, all languages trembled and feared before Him. Speaking to Nebuchadnezzar, whomever He wished, He executed. Whomever He wished, He kept alive. Whomever He wished, He set up. And whomever He wished, He put down. But when His heart was lifted up and the spirit hardened in pride, He was deposed from His kingly throne, and they took His glory from Him. That's what Mike covered last week right there. Then He was driven from the sons of men. His heart was made like beast, and His dwelling was with the donkeys. They fed Him with grass like oxen, and His body was wet with the dew from the heavens, till He knew the Most High God rules the kingdoms of men and appointed over whomever He chooses, whomever God sets up. Remember my covering there, where He went out, became like a beast, the grass in the field. See how this all circles back? The whole Bible really circles back from time to time. But you, His son, Belshazzar, you have not humbled your heart, although you knew all of this. You have been arrogant. You have been. Here's your pride. And you know what happened to your grandfather, your father, Nebuchadnezzar. You know about it till he came to a knowledge of God. You have no excuse, little boy. Rough translation. Yeah, you knew about this and everything. And you have lifted up yourself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels from the house before you. And you, your lords, your wives, your concubines have drunk wine from them, and you have praised the gods of silver, gold, bronze, iron, wood, and stone, which do not see, hear, or know, and the God who holds your breath in His hands and owns all the ways you have not glorified. You've taken these holy vessels from the temple in Jerusalem. You share them here with your. Just think, a few minutes earlier, well, not a few minutes, but a while earlier, he's partying away. He's drinking there. He's enjoying. Probably got him some beautiful babe dancing across the floor there. There's his finger. It gets his attention. And now, Daniel's right here. Daniel don't hold back. He's pointing the finger right at him. You knew this. You don't have an excuse, old boy. You know what happened to your grandfather. You knew. But yet, you take these vessels, they're holy. From the one true God, the holy God here, and you use them to toast idols.
He
Yeah,
knew what those vessels meant to the Jews or
mhm.
to God. I think he was mocking them.
No excuse, right? He knew that.
It kind of reminds me of what happened with Joseph and Moses. If you recall, Joseph did
Mhm.
great things for Pharaoh for a time. Then he ends up having Egypt has a leader later on. It doesn't say when, but Pharaoh did not know about Joseph or his people, and God sent Moses later on. What was his answer?
So I know what you mean right there, what you're talking about. Yeah. There's a period of time he did not know about Joseph interpreting dreams, and then here he does. He finally interprets his dream, and then he sets him up, and that. And then it comes back, his brothers put him and sold him into slavery there. Then they have to come back to him.
Was it they say those who don't remember history are doomed to repeat it?
Yep. And that's exactly what we do. All through history.
Right.
Through time.
We forget history, and we're subject to repeating it over and over. But like I said earlier there, Billy Graham says, you got Daniel over here, Revelation over here, and today's news in front of you.
Well, it plainly says that he knew that these gold and silver vessels were what his grandfather had taken out.
Yeah.
So he was trying to show off to his friends. Obviously, they already had gold and silver that they were drinking from.
Mhm.
He was the king, and that wasn't good enough for him. He wanted what belonged to God.
He wanted what came out of that temple. Evidently, for some reason, Nebuchadnezzar did not use these vessels, from what I'd see. They'd just been put in storage and kept there. There's nothing in the Bible about them ever being used until this time. He drags them out here. I want the very best. He knew they were the very best, of course. They came out of the temple in Jerusalem. Nothing but the best would be there, right? And here it is. And the toast he gives is not to God, it's to their idols. Their silver, the gold, and the bronze. They'd make them out, they'd pour them out of gold and silver and make them. They'd carve them out of wood. They'd, of course, do carvings in stone. You had stone idols and stone gods. They had gods for everything. That didn't do nothing. They couldn't see, hear, or talk. Didn't do nothing. And you're going to bow down to them? Think about it. Look, common sense today. Who and what are we bowing down to? Of course, I say the biggest idol we have is the one we see when we do our daily grooming. Self. We think more of ourselves than anything else. Then the finger of the hand sent for him, and the writing and the inscription was written, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. This is the interpretation. Each word. Mene, God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. It's up there twice. It means about the same thing as shekel, a coin, or like that. It's a value in it. He finds no value in your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, well, tekel actually means shekel. It's many is a measurement right there. You have been weighed in the balance and found wanting. In other words, brother, you're an empty vessel. For us, now the you is like and. To us, we don't. That's a conjunction there. Upharsin. For us, the kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. While all this is going on, the Mede and Persian soldiers, they were diverting a portion of the Euphrates River, which flowed through the walled city of Babylon, so they could come in under the walls. All this is taking place while this big old party is going on. The Medes and Persians are slipping in. This is getting late in the night. On the 11th hour, we'll just say the 11th hour. I don't know, but that's probably, pretty close to it. They're slipping in there and night coming in. Here's their troops coming in, and they're taking. Then Belshazzar gave the command, and they clothed Daniel in purple and put a chain of gold around his neck and made a proclamation concerning him that he would be the third ruler in the kingdom. He didn't want it. He didn't care about it. Whatever. But here it is. Now, while all this is taking place, like I say, according to Persian history, this will be November the 2nd, 539 AD. The mid, BC. BC. And the Medes and Persians controlled that area for about 200 years after that. They slip it. For that very night, Belshazzar, king of the Chaldeans, was slain. They come right into the party, I'd say, from what it says here, and took him out probably right there along with some others.
I'm sure he wasn't alone.
Mm-hmm. And Darius the Mede received the kingdom being about 62 years old. We're going to find more about Darius next week as we get into chapter there. Darius, there is no name of Darius that we can find in Medo-Persian history as a name. It is evidently a rank, the holder of the scepter, in other words, king. So Darius and Cyrus is one of the same. Yeah, but it is referred to as Darius a lot in here, but in that we find that Darius is more like a rank than Jim, Bob, or Joe. It's Captain Major or what have you like that. In that part, he is the guy that's in charge at the time. So this would be Cyrus is who this would be at this time coming in there.
Just as a note, in my Bible it says that the fall of Babylon was foretold in Isaiah 21:2, 5, and 9. And in verse 9 it says, "And see, here comes a troop of men in chariots, horsemen in pairs, and the watchman tells that Babylon has fallen, and the graven images of her gods lie shattered on the ground."
Mm-hmm.
So all this was foretold back in
It is foretold. That's right. I looked that one up, but if you want to see where it's also told, this is a history recording. 2 Kings 24, I think start about verse 19 or 20 and go into Kings 25 there ways, and it tells all about Nebuchadnezzar coming in and taking Jerusalem. You find there also another place where you find the shout, "Babylon has fallen." That was foretold also ahead. That's, let's see, 500. That's about 200 years before this. That was prophesied. Isaiah's are in the 700 BC era. He's about 700 years before Christ. And but there's a lot of prophecies about Babylon before this. You can crisscross this and keep looking. We can go really into depth to seeing the prophecies that are being fulfilled at this time and prophecies that will be fulfilled. Yeah, still to come. Comments, questions?
You said 2 Kings, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Chronicles has some parts into it about that also. Kings and Chronicles have a lot of things that are repeated in there. Okay. I got a prayer list, Dorsey? Oh, you go ahead. You get in the habit of this. You've had a chance to look at it. I haven't.
Okay. Nancy's asking prayers for Judd, especially for healing, and unspoken prayers for her family. James and Gail has an unspoken for their daughters. Pray for his mother's healing and father for strength, and pray for Judd and his family. The Bars, Tanner's moving to Charleston tomorrow and starting a new job. And their neighbor's son, Josh, is being baptized this morning. That's a praise. I had just put down healing for Judd, and peace and comfort for Melissa. And also I have an unspoken. Mike is asking for prayers for the lost and all that are sick and traveling, especially for Judd and his family, our country and military, and pray for Charles as he's handling our service this morning. Rhonda's Aunt Betty Corder has just found out that her cancer has come back, and they're not giving her very long to live. And she also has an unspoken. Jennifer has an unspoken, and Cody's asking for a prayer for Judd, and he also has an unspoken as well.